Hello, it's Aaron, and I just wanted to talk about an aspect of 9/11 No Flaws, which I haven't covered really, which is the fact that I went in person to the restaurant called Windows on the World, which was at the top of one of the towers in the year 2000. So I just wanted to really give a testimony of what my experience was of going into the building up to the restaurant and back. So the buildings themselves, I was always kind of fascinated with because they were such weird structures. They were weirdly big and boxy. They looked like the packing boxes that a proper skyscraper would come in. They didn't look like proper buildings to me ever. They looked very weird. If you compare them to other office buildings, the exterior was very different. The metalwork hid the windows, which were very narrow and recessed, and it basically made no sense. It minimised the amount of light that was going into the structure. It made it completely private from outside, and it gave the impression that if there had actually been floors and people working inside, they wouldn't have had any light, because if you look at it, it's basically designed not to really let very much light in or through. And obviously now we know exactly why that is, because it was concealing the fact that it was just a hollow box, and only when you have, say, the sun setting behind it or rising behind it, and you actually at altitude, would you be able to see clearly through the building like you can in some of the helicopter shots and some of the photos we've seen. But clearly the exterior of the building was designed to conceal what was inside, as in conceal the trick, which is that it only had a few floors. It basically only had a sky lobby floor, and then the restaurant floor at the top. And I understand there may be a ballroom floor below that. So if you look now, I'll put the graphic of the lift itself. So I walked into the building. So I booked at the restaurant. I went with a friend of mine, I think a colleague from work, as I remember. We went in. The lobby the lobby was enormous. It's enormous in terms of floor space because the outer boxes were massive, and if it had floors, then each floor was enormous. So you walk into this huge lobby that also was about 6 or 7 stories high. So the bottom 6 or 7 stories of the structure were just completely wasted for this lobby. So as soon as I walked in there, I was weirded out by that. Like, why would you build this incredibly expensive, massive, tall building and then use the bottom 6 stories for this cavernous, huge entrance lobby, which just had, like a desk. And there were a few, as I remember, there were maybe 2 or 3 staff at a kind of reception desk. But the thing that struck me most walking into this lobby was how there was no one there. There was basically pretty much no one there. There were a few people in reception on the reception desk, but there was not a single business person or woman walking around that I saw. None. It was like completely just a big, echoey, empty space. There were a few people at reception, and then there were a few people who dealt with the tourists. So they had there was one lift with kind of velvet ropes to guide you down to the one lift that you can go into. And when you go to the lift, there was a bellman, like a lift operator. And so that also struck me as strange, that there was a lift operator to take the tourists up to the top, but there was basically no sign of any other lifts in operation or any people walking around. And there were supposedly like tens of thousands of people working in the building above. So how can you have tens of thousands of people? I was just thinking, how is it possible, just statistically, to have tens of thousands of people working in the building above me, and yet here I am and looking in the lobby, and there's zero people who appear to be going in or out. It just seemed impossible, because I've worked in many offices and much smaller numbers of people, but you always see people coming in and out of the lobby. I know what a normal functioning lobby is. You've got post people coming in and out. You've got all sorts of things going on. You've got security guards and so on. Here there were like no security, no post people, no businessmen, Nobody. It was just like it was just like a museum. Really, it felt like a weird museum, and that's essentially what it was. I mean, it's almost like it's very similar. It was very similar in function to a lot of the museums that the Masons have. You're meant to go in there, you get shown some bollocks, you get brainwashed, and you come out, and that's what it's about. And it had the same kind of vibe of a kind of art gallery, bullshit art gallery, or a bullshit, you know what I mean. I think you know what I mean. I went in. So what was strange is the guy was operating the lift, and you absolutely weren't allowed to do anything yourself. And he took you into the lift, and they went to great lengths to. They clearly were going through some kind of script where they were telling you, we're going to the sky lobby, and then we're going to change lifts, and then we're going to go up to the top floor, because there's no direct lift from the lobby to the restaurant floor. So what we do is we go to sky lobby floor, which is somewhere up in the middle of the building, and then we change lifts, and then we go to the top floor. And they told us this, made very. They just seemed to be overly focused on explaining it all to us. Anyway, we went up to the middle floor, to the sky lobby, and we got out, and we changed lifts. But the sky lobby floor was a bit weird. It seemed to have some other lifts, but we were again taken to. Only one of the lifts had ropes going to it and seemed to be functioning. The others were just closed doors. And I now believe the other lifts didn't exist. They were just doors. It was mainly a hollow structure. They only needed a single operating lift to take tourists up and down to the restaurant and to the ballroom. There was no other. There's no other need for any lift access apart from that, because there were no actual office floors and no other people who were actually using the building. It was an electrical mast. Anyway, we changed floors. We went up into this second lift, and we were taken up to the top. And while I was standing in the lift, I was looking at the lift panel and just thinking, that's completely screwed up, because the lift panel just seemed to have a strange selection of floors that made no real sense, because they told us in the lobby there was no direct lift from the lobby to the top, but one of the lifts had the lobby floor, the sky lobby, the ballroom, and the restaurant on the button panel. So that wasn't consistent with what we'd been told about having to change lifts. And it also was just weird, because why would you have this lift, which they called an express lift, which had floors 144, 106 and 107? It just didn't make any fucking sense. There's no possible explanation that could make sense of why you would have that selection of floors and no other floors available on the button panel. So I thought, that's really creepy. What the hell is going on with this building? I just thought it was weird. I have to emphasise, I didn't know at that time that there were no floors, and I didn't think, oh, there are clearly no floors. But I thought, there's something really weird going on with this building. And when we got out at the top to go into the restaurant, I noticed that so first of all, the restaurant floor was only occupied a small part of the floor, the potential floor space on 107, because the actual, as I said before, the box size was huge on these buildings. So if you couldn't have a restaurant that took up an entire floor, because it would just be so vast. So it was only a small, like a corner of the floor that the restaurant occupied. And when I was walking to my table, I noticed that the floor was kind of weird and rubbery and seemed to be made of sections, and that it felt strange to walk around. It felt kind of bouncy. And I'm not just saying this in retrospect. I noticed this at the time. I thought there was something that felt really weird walking around. And later, when I heard all about after 9/11 and after all the stories and stuff, there were all these stories about how it had special hanging floors. So I thought maybe this is that special hanging floor design, because it felt like it had some recoil to it. I can't, like when you're walking on like a squash court or something, and you get a slight spring from the floor. That's what it felt like. And I now realise that that's because it was just a temporary floor structure. It wasn't an office floor made of solid steel and concrete. It was a hanging floor, and they only had two upper floors. They had the restaurant floor and the one below it, which was a ballroom. They call it a ballroom. I mean, they probably did all kinds of crazy Masonic, satanic rituals and stuff there, because this structure, it was perfect for them to do all their nasty stuff in. Maybe they executed people by throwing them, dropping them to the floor. I have no idea what they actually used the building for. They could have done anything in there, because you could take people there, and it was a completely secret, weird place. So I don't know what they were doing up in the ballroom. I'm sure they were doing some nasty stuff there. But anyway, point being, it was weird. I could tell that there was something up with the floors and the structure generally. There weren't office workers. The floor was weird and springy, and only occupied a small area of 107. So in total, when you go to the restaurant, eat a meal and then leave, you've only visited the lobby, the sky lobby, and part of the restaurant floor. That's all you've seen, but it's obviously designed, the whole experience is designed to make you feel like, hey, I've been in that building, that was a real building, there's nothing strange about that building, because I've been in there and I went to the top and I ate a meal. So that was the whole point of it. That's the reason to have the restaurant. There's no reason to put a restaurant up there for any other reason. It's obviously not economical at all to build a floor specifically just to put a restaurant in this hollow structure. It was done for a psyop, just like all these other masts, like the CN Tower has a restaurant, and the Shard has a viewing platform, and so they always put a tourist attraction at the top to just baffle you about, so that you don't wonder what the hell is this structure for, because they'll show you like a viewing platform. Like if you go to Shard, you can go and see the viewing platform, and they'll tell you, oh, there's all these hotels, and then there's these businesses, and so on. There's no way that you ever, but then if the hotel never opens, or you can never visit it, or it's so expensive that only you think that there are some mega rich sort of Arab fake oil tycoons who go and stay in it, or something. But you don't see it. It's just the story. All you actually see as a member of the public, all you can see is what they want you to see, which is the viewing platform or the restaurant or whatever bollocks they put up there. Or if it's a Ferris wheel, then you see the pod. You're not going to see more than they want you to. And so I did go in there. I did think it was weird at the time. I didn't at the time. It never, this is before 9/11, before they sent the whole world into that level of stupidity and silliness and action movie kind of reality. So it didn't occur to me at the time that there weren't any physical flaws at all in the building, but it did seem to me that there was something iffy, and that they were hiding something about this structure, and there was something not right about it, because everything about it was wrong. It was too quick to build. It took only 2 years to build, so it's impossible that it could have had office floors. You just can't build a structure on that time scale with that many floors. It's completely impossible, no matter how big a team you have. And the construction footage shows that there weren't any floors, but there were other things that were weird about it. I stayed in a hotel opposite the building for I think a couple of weeks when I was there on business. So I was staying in the Millennium Hilton on the 48th floor, looking directly into the middle of the Twin Towers across the road. So I looked down and saw little ants, and I looked up, and I craned my neck to see the top. So I was looking at the middle of it. And so I'd see the lights that went on at night, and they just seemed weird. The lights that would go on and off. And now I know in retrospect that was an electronic lighting system. It was basically a rig just created to give the impression that there were office floors. There were no actual offices. You couldn't see any people. You couldn't see into any of the floors. And yet there was this lighting rig that went on. It was just a mess. Like it was just very mad of them to think, hey, we'll just basically trick everyone for. They started building it in 1969, and then they demolished it in 2001. So they thought, oh, we'll just, just deceive everyone for 32 years, and that's not including all the stuff they had in the media and before they built the buildings, because they had to say, hey, we're adding 100 million square meters of office space or something, when already New York had too much office space, and people were saying, well, what the hell are you doing? Think you're building more office space? You'll completely destroy. There's no need for it. No one's asked for it, and you're going to wreck the economy. And then clearly they heard, backstage, oh, don't worry, it's just an electrical tower with no floors. And then it went ahead, and it didn't affect anything in terms of the office space. It didn't affect the market at all because it had no office space at all. So, yeah, so this is it. Anyway, I hope you understand that this is my own personal testimony, and it's not coloured by what I've learned since. I felt it was weird on my first visit. I thought there was something up with the building, but it took me an awfully long time to figure out exactly what it was. The fact that on 9/11 it was that building that got demolished just made me think, what the fuck? I mean, it really just made me think, well, I was right. There was something really up with that building, because I could tell that it was some kind of trickery. I just didn't come to the realization that they could be so creative. You see, you have to, in order to realize that there were no flaws, you had to entertain that as a possibility, because it didn't really make sense if you think of it. Why would someone, you just rule it out, because why would someone build a structure like that without flaws? You have to be open to the possibility that there's a motive to do that, which later I worked out to be the atmospheric electricity tower. But at the time that I came up with the idea, and then that it might have no flaws, and then went and looked and discovered, wow, it really had no flaws, that was right. At that time, I was not aware that it might have been an electrical mast. I just simply was going through like a mental experiment of going, well, let's just discard all assumptions and look, there's no floor debris. What's the simplest possible explanation for no floor debris, and no corpses and no bits of office equipment and no anything like that? The only human item that seems to have fallen out was a Saudi passport, which they immediately found. So, what's the simplest possible explanation for no floors and no equipment, no, fridges, no computers, no anything? Well, the simplest explanation is there were no flaws. So that's why I looked for no flaws, even though I knew it made no sense to me at the time that they could build a structure with no flaws. But I still decided I need to entertain that as a possibility, because it is the simplest explanation. And it turned out to be right. So they didn't want, they really worked very hard to stop anyone thinking the way that I thought about it. But anyway, they're busted. And that's my testimony. So I hope that's been of some help.